SpongeBob SquarePants Lights Camera Pants for the ps2. This is my third time playing the SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants game. I actually have played it on 2 other versions, the computer and the Game Boy. If I had to compare them, I would probably say the Game Boy version is the worst because it's the most boring. But if I compare this one to the computer, it'd be a very tough battle, and I'm not really sure who would win. I have played other SpongeBob games before. I've played SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, and then I played SpongeBob SquarePants the movie. I have to say, between all of these games, I'd have to say SpongeBob SquarePants the movie was the worst because of the level progression. It could take a long time to do it, since you had to collect all those dumb Goofy Goober tokens. The whole game is actually played just like Mario Party, and I'll explain why. The premise of the game is that this film director is looking for people to play roles in the new Merman and Barnacle Boy movie. So SpongeBob and his friends thinks it's a good idea to try out for the roles. If you ask me, that sounds a little stupid. I mean, why is the director challenging these 4 random strangers into a bunch of minigames to compete for the role? Seriously, it really makes no sense. I mean, what does flipping burgers or bouncing a bunch of boxes up to storage have to do with playing the role as a waiter? Or what does reeling debris in from Goo Lagoon or racing each other in inflatable pants have to do with being a lookout for the main villain? Whatever happened to trying to act out the part? What, was the director bored or something? I think I might know the secret behind this. I think SpongeBob and all of his friends did actually act out the scene, but they did such a poor job at it that the director just threw him into a bunch of minigames and tested him out to see which one would be dumb enough to get the role. Quite ridiculous if you think about it. And why is he just thinking about SpongeBob and his friends? Why doesn't he get some actual top-class actors in this? I guess the movie must have just been very low budget, since no one really seems to care about acting out in a movie with Merman and Barnacle Boy. Ugh, God, that's too much to think about. You can choose up to a few different characters when you start playing the game. You can choose it from SpongeBob to Sandy to even Plankton. Why Plankton? God, he's annoying. You can choose your difficulty to easy, medium, or hard, and you can choose the smartness of the bots. The range from the bots would be easy to mildly difficult, but I don't really think you'll have any trouble with them. I must say at times in some games, the bots will end up screwing you over pretty badly. So I would be very aware when you have to do 2-on-2 in some of the mini-games, because the AI at times can just be incredibly stupid. Most of the characters from the TV show are in the game, and they're all voiced pretty well. I'm gonna assume that they're voiced by the original actors. Most of the voice acting comes from the cutscenes, and they actually look pretty good. But then there's the parts where the director is talking to the person that helps him out with the minigames, such like Larry Lobster or Bubble Bass. The animations there looks like they just took a bunch of pictures of the character in different stances. And it looks really weird at times, and the lip syncing looks terrible. You will travel around different locations in Bikini Bottom, such as the Krusty Krab or to downtown Bikini Bottom. When you get to a new destination, you will play 3 mini-games in order to get the role. Most of the mini-games are very different from each other, which is good because that would really be boring if they did the same formula. You would end up winning the role for the part of the location you're at if you win most of the mini-games. There are 2 ways that you were scored on the games you play. There's Audition Points, which is pretty much how many points you got in the game, and then there's Popularity Points, of how much points you have overall. The Audition Points are really just for high score, but the Popularity Points will tell if you get the role or not. The graphics in the game look pretty nice for a SpongeBob game. For a PS2 game, they could have been maybe a little better. But I do appreciate the fact that they kept the same graphic art style from the other SpongeBob games. Some of the mini-games you could play are actually kind of fun, such as playing soccer in a prison yard, or racing each other in cars. But most of the minigames are actually very boring to play, such as reeling in debris from Goo Lagoon, or using or repairing generators in the Chum Bucket. The controls worked about 50% of the time. It felt like when I had to push a button, my character on the screen would not respond. And this really wasn't a rare occurrence. It would seem to happen most often in a certain minigame, since when I needed to push the bots off the edge into the water, and you'd have to press the square button to be able to brake, and it just wouldn't work. There is also a tournament mode where you can see which one does the best in all of the minigames. And then there's a single game mode where you only play up to one game you choose. The music in all the mini games was very different from each other. It was alright, but honestly it was really nothing that special. If you get a high enough score on a game, you will unlock art collectibles and action figures. These art collectibles can be trailer pictures from fake movies in the Spongebob SquarePants world, or they can be action figures of the characters. Once you play all the mini games, they will end up showing the whole entire Merry Man and Barnacle Boy movie to you. Whichever character wins the role, it'll show him in the movie.
Oh, come on, Mermaid Man. That shady character at the beach obviously sent us on a wild goose chase.
Don't be silly, son. There are no wild geese here. We're at the bottom of the ocean. Waiter.
We should be out finding the sneaky hermit.
Did you say sneaky hermit?
Yes, I did.
The hermit used to be in my tap dancing class.
Well, that's a coincidence. Well, have you seen anything suspicious?
Would suspicious be like, seeing Man Ray drag a wriggling sack into the chum bucket, perhaps?
I call that suspicious.
'Cause no one goes into the chum bucket.
SpongeBob SquarePants Lights Camera Pants is an alright game. It's an okay concept, but I don't really think you're going to replay the game again. The game does have its replayability with collectible items and different movie scenes as different characters. But most of the mini games are just very boring or not that fun to play, so I don't really think you're going to come back to it. This game gets a 5 out of 10. SpongeBob, you should probably just stick with television.